Hey everyone, I have a special guest today, Josh Medeski. A lot of you probably know him already. Hi Josh, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Thanks for having me.
I watched your videos, you got me started with Yabai some time ago. So I just wanted to have you over because I've been wanting to try your CLI tool, I think it is called Sesh, right? It's like a Tmux
Right.
session manager, something like that, right?
That's right. Yep.
A lot of people in the comments have told me, have you tried Sesh? And I haven't. So that's one of the reasons why you're here. And for everyone else watching, just want to get to know Josh a little bit more. So I have a series of questions here that we'll be going over. I don't know, do you want to say something before we get started with the questions, Josh?
Sure. I guess general background, I'm a full stack developer, have been for about a decade and mostly in the TypeScript land by day, but do a lot of other languages on the side. And I'm in Texas here in the US. And yeah, that's a little bit about me outside of YouTube.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm in Guatemala, by the way. And
Nice.
I'm more like a site reliability engineer. Unemployed at the moment. I'm looking for a job. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if YouTube's gonna work out or not, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, good luck either way. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, I have here. Well, let me just start a timer. We don't have to take 30 minutes exactly. It's just so that we can keep track of time. Just gonna
Sure,
start
I'll
a
do the
timer
same.
here. Yeah. And why did you start YouTube? And when did you start? It's a question I have.
Yeah, good question. I think one of my first videos was around maybe 2020. I'm trying to think I'd say about 3 years ago, I really started making videos, mostly on dotfiles and macOS and all similar to what you talk about here. And started doing interviews over that time because I just wanted to talk to my friends about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting to record it and share it with others. And it seems to be well received so far. And then, yeah, like the Tmux stuff and some of the macOS stuff, I just found that I was being extremely productive after
Mm-hmm.
many years of iterating on setups and workflows and ideas. And so I thought that it would be useful to share that knowledge.
Interesting. And when you share this with your friends or other people you know, do they understand? Do they feel the same way, excited like you, or they don't care?
That's a great question. I think the main reason maybe I tried the YouTube thing is because most of the people I know don't really care about this kind of stuff. It's a little bit more nerdy
Mm-hmm.
than even some of my developer friends. So I went out to look for a community of like-minded people. And so far, it's going well. I'm making lots of new friends that, actually care about Tmux, session management strategies and, neovim plugin configurations and all the kind of super, super nerdy stuff that I'm into.
Yeah, same thing happens here. I
Yeah.
talk about this, to everyone. No one cares. Not my friends, ex coworkers. Everyone's like, okay, I don't care. Yeah, so good. That's when you started then. And let's move on to the next one that I have here is your operating system of choice. Which one is it? And why do you choose that operating system?
Yeah. So if you can tell from the little traffic cones, well, you can't see my screen yet, but I'm a macOS guy. And I think around college, I bought my first Mac, which I won't age myself, but it was quite a while ago. So I've been here quite some time. You're going to see my browser, which I think we're going to talk about later. But yeah, so Mac OS, it's been great to me. I have an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple Watch. I tried the Vision Pro for a couple weeks before returning it. So I'm a big Apple guy in general. I like the ecosystem, and so far it works for me.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on the other two operating systems? We're just going to talk about the most known ones, which is
Yeah,
Windows,
sure.
of course, and Linux. What are your thoughts? Why didn't you switch to one of those, or why haven't you switched to one of those? Why are you still on Mac OS? And have you used them? And what do you think about
Yeah,
them?
totally fair question. So I have a gaming PC on Windows, and I like to do stable diffusion. And a lot of those toolings tend to really only work well on Windows, at least some of the more specific open source projects. And so I dabble with Windows. To be honest, though, I just use the macOS Windows desktop, streaming app. So usually I'm just using Windows on my Mac as a virtual machine. Overall, I've never been impressed by Windows productivity apps. I think that they're really limiting. As a good example, things like Raycast. The whole concept of Raycast is like a productivity launcher and tooling and things like that. I know that the Raycast team recently mentioned they're porting to Windows, but the idea of that doesn't translate well. And I am a computer programmer, so being a Unix-based system is just really great. It makes everything a lot easier to grasp and to understand when it comes to tooling and command line stuff and all of that. So, and for Linux, I used Pop! OS for a while. I liked that one the most, which is a branch off of Ubuntu from a US-based computer company. What is their name? System 76 are the ones that maintain that one. And it's good. It's good. It's really good. I personally am really, really married to the command key. And so between Windows or Linux, everything's kind of driven by the control key, which may seem like a small thing, but at least for me, it was enough to not be enticing enough to switch full time. And I can customize things. And again, there's even a lot of good macOS apps I've used over the years that there were never any alternative options that were even close to me regarding quality or features or whatever. And so I just keep sticking to macOS. I love it.
But you're open to the other two operating systems. You mentioned that you use Windows for gaming, right? So it's not like I hate Windows.
No, I'm not anti-Windows. I just don't find myself to be very productive there.
Yeah, makes sense. Especially in the terminal. Like you said, I'm so used to Unix, and when I switch to a Windows machine and I open the terminal, man, I just can't do anything. Just to list the contents of a directory, typing the dir command.
That's right.
I'm not used to it. All right.
Yeah.
Good. And which ID do you use? I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah, so I'm a neovim guy. I wouldn't consider it an IDE. I'd call it a text editor with some fancy features plugged into it. I've been a Vim user for, I would say maybe 8 or 9 years. I started in VS Code. Well, if we go back really, really far, things like Dreamweaver from Adobe was probably my first editor. And then Atom was a really popular one a few years back. And Brackets made an appearance for a little while. And then, VS Code became a standard for most people. I actually had a stint for, I would say, almost 2 years. I was in Spacemacs, which is an interesting Emacs distro that is Vim heavy, very Vim minded. And that was a cool experience. I liked Spacemacs still. And then I'd say about 5 years ago or so, I quit all of those and I just went into the terminal full time and I went into neovim full time and I haven't looked back ever since.
And do you remember how you felt the first time that you opened Vim? Well, not only the first time, the first few times that you opened Vim and you needed to do something like edit a file. Remember how was the experience?
Can I think back that far? I remember being very curious, where I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting. What is this thing called modals?" Right? I think all of us, the very first time we get into Vim is by accident, and so at that point, it's like, I don't even know what editor I'm in. What is this? It's like I don't even know it is Vim. So that was probably my first experience, which we all joke that exiting Vim is like one of the hardest things on earth to do if you don't know how to do it. So there's definitely frustration if you kind of blindly end up inside it. But at the beginning, it was interesting. It was very slow, very strange to wrap my head around. But pretty quickly, you can grasp the basic concepts and you get used to hitting the escape key a lot, right?
Yeah. And did you stick to Vim first time or you stopped? You said, because I remember what happened to me. I tried it the first time and it was like, I don't know what this is. I was following a tutorial, I think,
Yeah.
and a Linux tutorial, and the guy just made me open Vim and edit. I think it was like I don't remember what file it
some
was.
dot file or something. Yeah.
Yeah, some
Config
network file, some config file related to to set up a static IP, I think it was,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, what the hell is this? Why do people
What
use
is
this?
this?
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense, right? That's what I thought, So did you? But and
Yeah, I feel your
tried,
pain.
Yeah.
I think maybe on accident I had opened it a few times, but because I've been so curious about it for most of my development career, I found it really lackluster at the beginning because the Vim editor itself, you had older tools like, boy, am I going to remember these? There were tools for formatting and for code completion and things like that, and they were okay, but I ultimately found for the longest time that using Vim bindings in other editors, like I even used WebStorm for a little while. So WebStorm and VS Code and Atom and Brackets and all of the editors I've used over the years all had Vim motions.
Mm-hmm.
So that was where I started. And that's where I recommend most beginners that want to know about Vim. I tell them, go install the Vim emulator on your editor, get used to the modes and the bindings. And then if you feel comfortable and you have the time and energy to commit to understanding and grasping all the terminal related stuff, then switch over is my sort of philosophy to most people.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And what about your window manager? What are you using these days? I got started in Yabai because of one of your videos. So
yeah,
what are you up to?
People are asking me that a lot lately, and I haven't been able to land on a solid answer. So there's a new tool called Aerospace that's become really popular, and it's an i3-like tiling manager, and it is in beta, and I found that it has some memory leaks, and so it's kind of like you buy without having to assign, disable system integrity, which was one reason that I recently thought, you know what, maybe I don't need Yabai, maybe there's a better solution. So I used this for a little while. I ultimately am not using it, and so my current approach is something built into macOS called Stage Manager.
Okay,
and so
I've seen
Stage
that.
Manager just puts windows in this little tray on the side. And similar to my blazing fast window manager video, there was a tool called Space Launcher that I talked about. I now do something slightly different, which is I have the Option key bound to somewhat semantic letters. So like Option W is for web, so I can go to web. Option A for my editor. It used to be Alacrity, but the binding has stuck. And so I have WASD, right? S would be second brain. And you'll notice that they sort of just fill in the space available. And so the way that Stage Manager works is it takes this window and it will basically swap it out for another. And so
the
you'll see
entire
that
screen.
And so I just hit that button and it binds it. And if I was to like say, hey, I want my note taker here, I can use a couple bindings and I can have, two screens at once. I don't do this very much, so I haven't even gone through the trouble of making it. And you can just sort of drag this guy back over to get it back. So unfortunately, there's all the mouse people are going to freak out, right? The no mouse people. But I find that because the majority of my day is all full screen windows, that it's fine if I have to grab the mouse and drag a window over for, let's say, a meeting and I need Zoom and my note-taking app on the same screen.
I see.
But I found Aerospace to be a little bit too much because I don't really like the auto tiling anymore.
Yeah, me neither.
I just prefer, give me full screen width.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And you'll notice my menu bar is hidden. My dock is hidden. Where's the dock? I think the dock usually lives over here.
Interesting.
It's not even here because this is a secondary screen. But yeah, so I don't use the dock. I don't use the menu bar. I just like a minimalist aesthetic.
Full screen app on the screen. Yeah, that's what I do as well. I just keep an application on the screen at a time. Well, one application and the sticky notes thingy that you see on the right, which is
Right,
where
your
my
notes. Yeah.
my notes. Yeah, but I just got used to it, and I feel that I get distracted way less.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Cool.
let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, your terminal. What were you using? I didn't notice what terminal you were using, and why did you choose that one?
Yeah. So I'm using WesTerm. I know you've spoken a lot about WesTerm. And, I really like the background image. This background image that we see on my terminal right now is something that I can change. So if I hit Command R, this is a Mid-Journey photo I generated. This is Severance, any Severance fans. And Outer Wilds video game I played. So I like personally to collect wallpapers. And because I do the full screen thing, right? It's like when I'm full screen on these windows, you can't see the wallpaper.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm in the terminal so much that I prefer this style. Here's a nice one I found from online. And so it's just a collection. Here's a new game coming up. So I have things that I anticipate, and Minecraft, is always fun. And so it's just a really simple way to control that. And I like the Lua programming language. And so all of this is driven by Lua. And I have high performance setup and max FPS. And so it's very buttery smooth.
Yeah.
I even have the ability to like switch between fonts. So if I wanted to do that, I could. And then this get wallpaper is just a, wallpaper. It's just a quick little Lua thing combined with WesTerm. So I get to do cool programmatic stuff. I've talked about it in depth in my channel as well. I like to use keyboard bindings that are macOS style for my editor. So if I hit Command T, it creates a new Tmux window. If I hit Command W, it closes a Tmux pane. If I hit Command K, I get my Sesh switcher. So I can switch between projects with Command K. If there's more than one thing open, I can do Command Shift bracket. For those that don't know, you can like move between tabs. So I have all that bound using a couple of combined functions. And even Command S works. Command S can save.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That seems pretty useful. And how do you feel when using a terminal without a desktop background? A lot of people tell me that, like, how can you use a terminal and see the picture in the background? A lot of people in the comments and Reddit and basically everywhere tell me the same thing. How do you feel when using a terminal without a desktop background?
How do I feel? I mean, because I've ingrained it in WesTerm, I like it's just visually pleasing. But having just a blank screen to me is just boring. I'm just a visually oriented person. And I'm sure we could just disable this, right? And it would just go away. So, okay, it's black. Great. Like, whatever. But so it's just to my own benefit that I can see something pleasant.
Yeah, I got used to it as well. And in my work computer, I couldn't disable zip. So I was using Yabai, but I couldn't set the transparency. So I had to use the terminal, with the solid color. I just didn't like it. I felt something was missing. I cannot explain it. I got used to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, what I've learned recently is I really don't like having a desktop wallpaper. So if you have a MacBook Pro or a similar kind of computer, you'll notice there's a black notch sitting at the top of your screen, right? It's like this thing that sticks out. And if you set your desktop to black, it just goes away.
Yeah.
And if I'm on a studio display, so when there's a little bit of spacing between my windows, it's just invisible. You can't even notice that space is there. So everything just sort of floats. And then when I'm editing, the wallpapers are used on the terminal emulator itself. Yeah.
Interesting. Great idea. Okay. And to navigate between your projects, how do you do it? You use Tmux. If you don't like Tmux, do you love Tmux? Are you on the love or hate Tmux side of the house?
I've invested part of my career on Tmux. So most people that are, beyond the macOS stuff will know me for Tmux. I've actually authored how many, at least 3 or 4 Tmux plugins, all of which have hundreds of stars. I think we're almost at 1,000 on Sesh. So slowly starting to build my open source, career, you could call it, on Tmux. And so, yeah, I have a really popular video talking about how I do smart Tmux session management with Zoxide and FZF, and I ended up porting that over to Golang using a few popular Go libraries and some CLI integrations, and I was able to build Sesh, which is basically a robust version of that Zoxide FCF tool that I had originally authored a few years ago. And it's going well. I've been adding features and I've been fixing Tmux problems. And if anyone was noticing, there's one of the ones I maintain is a fork, but I can open URLs with a key binding. I swap out all my Tmux window names for emojis, basically, or nerd font icons. So I get a really minimalist look there. And so, yeah, I'm a huge Tmux person.
Wonderful. All right. And right, let's move on to something else then. I don't know the topics. I don't have them organized in a good way here. I just slap them there, and I don't think they make any sense. But we're just jumping between stuff.
We could talk keyboards, I think, is next on the list.
Yeah. What do you have?
If you want to share my screen, you can see these are the boards I use day to day. So I'm a long ZSA user. I use the ErgoDocs for the longest time. So this was my main board for many, many years. And then they came out with another board, the Moonlander. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago now. I've been using this mostly full time. When I'm on the road, I like using the Newfie Air. And I bought myself a little Lego keyboard recently. So this is made out of Lego bricks. It's kind of fun to play with. And this is another one I bought for myself a while back. It's a nice little 80% board. So I'll swap between boards when I'm in the mood. But I would say probably 80% of the time I'm on my Moonlander.
Okay. And why did you switch, or why did you try a split keyboard? Was there like a specific reason? Did you have sort of pain or something?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't have carpal tunnel or any major injury yet, but I would say most of my hobbies also included a lot of hand coordination and dexterity, and so things like video games and stuff like that. And so combining all that in my probably mid-20s, I was like, hey, I need to sustain my hands. I need to not, end up, crippled because I spent too much time doing this stuff. So yeah, it was mostly just an intentional choice on better ergonomics.
Oh, okay.
And I had other boards that I don't have any photos, but like the Microsoft Sculpt was the first thing I went out and bought when I was starting to feel wrist pain with the default macOS keyboard is really small and the travel is really short. So your wrists are cramped and you end up, I can type really fast on that one, but that wasn't necessarily a benefit to my ergonomics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it seems that exactly the same thing happened to me. I could type really fast on the macOS Magic Keyboard. I love it. I love the way it feels, right? Because it's so soft, so smooth. Right. So I do like the way that it feels, but I started experiencing forearm pain, and it was a lot of pain. So yeah, I had to make a choice.
That's right. And what board are you on now?
Oh,
this is the Glove 80? Yeah, Glove 80.
This is the one that I decided to go with. I wasn't sure if going with this one or the one that the ThePrimeagen uses, which is, what is it called?
The Kinesis Advantage, yeah. That's a good board too. Like, I'm a nerd. I know about all the boards. I don't have unlimited budget. Otherwise, I'd probably just keep buying boards. Yeah. And I think it'd be fun to build my own one day. And so I have some ideas. I have some prototypes and some sketches about ways I might be able to design my own mechanical keyboard, but that'll be a whole new hobby to enter. And I'm not quite prepared for that.
There's a guy in Discord that created his own prototype. It's I don't know how many keys it has, but he has a YouTube channel. He has a lot of subscribers, and he created his own, and seems pretty good,
Great. Yeah, I have a lot of people in my community where we talk a lot about keyboards. There's a lot of them that are way more hardcore than me. And I want to make a point, I guess, before we move on, and that is for this, there's a thumb cluster, and it's really easy to say, I'm going to make up some really, really specific and custom, feature, or I'm going to leverage there's a lot of cool features like auto shift where you can hold a key on these keyboards and it'll automatically shift the letter and stuff like that. Yep. I have mostly moved away from that, and I have done my best to make all of my boards fairly simple. The command keys mostly in the same place. For me, it's, here where you'd expect the command key, and alt and control. And, I have to move a few things around on this board in particular because it's just layout is kind of weird. But when I switch keyboards, it feels familiar. So I'm not leaning into let me do something really, really crazy with this board and override everything with carabiner elements or with, QMK,
hardware,
and you have to do
it on every keyboard.
Yeah, so I've kept it really simple. Over the years, I tried really complicated things, and I found that if I wanted to buy a new keyboard or plug a new keyboard in, either my carabiner elements type thing would get really complicated really fast, or there were features that just weren't available. And so it's okay, then I'm just going to keep it simple. Keep it easy.
I have a similar approach. Everyone tells me, why don't I use layers? Because this keyboard is designed for that, right? To use layers and get stuff really complex. I don't want to. Why? Because I switched to the laptop computer, and there I use a regular keyboard. I want to be as fast there as I'm on this other keyboard, so I keep it simple as well. Even the numbers, I have the numbers here where they belong. I type the numbers at the top. Yeah, I don't have a layer for numbers and symbols. Everything is just the default.
Yeah, I think it works for me to keep it simple.
Yeah, that's true. And let's see. Okay, let's move on to the next topic then. Let me just switch to the other screen. How do you use AI? What do you think about AI? Well, I don't want to go too in depth here, but how do you use it?
Yeah, so I can point people to, I did a neovim and AI talk last year at neovimconf, and so I spoke a lot about all the options that were available at that time. So I currently use Avante a lot, which is like a cursor style neovim plugin, Avante. And this is the tool that lets me, use language models in my code editing. And I use Copilot for completion. And so I use those a lot. And I actually am a Raycast member. So I also use, Raycast Pro, which gives me access to all these models. So if I'm moderating, if I'm editing a document or I'm asking for a question or I'm brainstorming ideas, I use AI pretty much all day, every day.
Yeah, me too. And this Avante, is it like a plugin that you run inside neovim, or is it it's...
That's right. It's just a plugin for neovim. Okay. And because I'm a Copilot owner, because I have a Copilot subscription, Copilot is my provider for that tool.
Interesting.
And so I'm not paying, paying for Claude API usage or OpenAI, custom API key usage. I'm giving GitHub Copilot, a fee I think it's a yearly thing, and it just works for me. And I think under the hood, Copilot's currently using ChatGPT 4.0 maybe as its default model. And so it's been working well. And I have lots of others. We can go into it a whole bunch, but there's an app called Cotypist that lets you basically put autocomplete in anywhere in your computer. This one's great. This one's really, really great. And it tells me how many words I save. I've saved 16 words today. So most of it's just common sense things, like I'm writing a sentence and it's like, hey, I think I know at the end of this sentence.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, that's pretty good. It does it on Obsidian as well. So it's just a helpful little tool for me.
That seems pretty useful, actually, but not in neovim, right?
Not in neovim, because I have Copilot and all those things.
Okay. Interesting.
And I also recently set up an ollama tool that lets me ask for prompts and get the output via a language model. In this case, I just use a local language model. So I can say hi to Link, right? And I just hit a binding and the language model. Oh, that's funny, redacted. So it's not perfect, but I've been playing around with that. And I've been experimenting with a tool for, let's just copy that, called Lumen, which is funny because I was just talking about, it's a reference to a Severance, that show that's out right now. I can pass Lumen, it reads the staging elements and it spits out a Git commit message for me. So this one's been kind of fun to experiment with. So I'm always on the lookout for interesting use cases for language models.
Okay.
This isn't integrated into my workflow yet, but it's a fun teaser of like, hey, there are lots of clever uses for language models that people are coming up with.
Interesting. And how do you keep history of the in Raycast Pro? Can you keep history of your conversations, or is it just like a temporary sort of thing?
It's all sorts of things. It kind of varies a whole lot. You can search those things and go back to them. You can now speak to things like Apple Notes, browser, clipboard history. So you can dump a lot of data into this and get feedback out. You can drop files in here. You can generate images here. So there's a whole lot of powerful features there that I enjoy using.
Because I went back to the regular ChatGPT copy paste thing, but I didn't know that you could keep history of conversations. So it's basically like a ChatGPT interface, but you can use different models, right?
Yep. And it's always available. So it's just one hotkey away.
Interesting.
And funny enough, I actually do this. I'll show you one more thing and we can go. I can say, who is linkarzu YouTuber? And if I hit tab, I use this way more than I actually search things on the web. So I see you're on TikTok too. That's cool. Tech-related tutorials and content.
Oh,
about
interesting.
These tools. And so it uses, RAG. It uses web searching combined with LLMs to give me
I see.
results.
It seems pretty interesting. Pretty useful.
It's so helpful. So yeah, I could talk about AI all day. It's even my search engine is AI driven. And so, yeah, I use it for everything all the time now.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for sharing all that. And what projects are you currently working on? We've been at 32 minutes right now.
Yeah, I work on Sesh. I'm continuing to add features to it on the side. And my day job, I work at a company that focuses on utility management. And so I build a lot of products for them. I looked at my Git stats and I wrote something like 70,000 lines of code last year. So really productive. I think I was at like 5,000 commits or something. So, ripping solutions on the day job. So I don't necessarily constantly drive myself to do more at night, but Sesh is important to me. I do a little bit of game development right now. I've been learning more about 3D modeling. So, just tinkering, learning some new things where I can, and spending time on my open source projects when it seems important to add to or improve on those systems.
Interesting. Let's just quickly go over the next one. Just name them, your 3 favorite CLI tools. You don't have to go in deep, just name them basically.
FCF for sure. FCF's probably the top of the list. I'm going to say Sesh because it's technically a CLI tool and it's mine. So I'm going to say Sesh. And then I'll also say, I think I'll say LazyGit.
LazyGit.
It's not perfect, but it's been really reliable for me for many years. So it's one I use every day.
Wonderful. And your macOS apps?
I'm still an Arc user for the web browser. It's my favorite because it's just so good. And I haven't found a good alternative yet, although we're all looking, I think. So Arc, at this point, Raycast for sure. Raycast is probably the thing that makes me the most productive aside from Sesh. And then the third I'm going to I did call out Cotypist. I'm going to call out Tailscale. I don't know if you know what Tailscale is, but it's a way to create a virtual private network.
Yeah, I did. I was
And
trying to do a Rust server for gaming. I tried to use
yeah,
Tailscale, didn't work. Moved on to something else. But
yeah.
yeah, I've heard of it.
So I have some home lab stuff, and there are moments where it would be really nice to connect to those things outside of my network. And so Tailscale I just recently set up, and it was really easy. So like Home Assistant is my smart home manager. And now, without any crazy certificates or port forwarding or anything wild, I can just connect to Tailscale and pull up the Home Assistant app on my phone from anywhere, and it just works. It just connects. So super nice.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah.
And where can people find you? Let me share your screen so you can show where people can find you.
Yeah, so head to joshmedeski.com. You'll see I'm on YouTube. I have a Discord server, and you can follow me on, I'm on all the social medias, so X. I'm on Blue Sky now. Maybe I could add that to my website. But if you just want to see my posts and videos, you can go through here. Here's the last one that I did, and I think I talked about my AI talk. So you'll find that toward the top of my website. But the Discord server is where we spend a lot of time talking about this stuff. So that's where I tend to tell people to go and have more conversations with me.
Yeah, we share a lot of users. I'm pretty sure a lot of the subscribers that I have are already subscribed to your channel, but
yeah, like-minded people for sure.
Yeah,
and of course, I do recommend if you would follow me on YouTube. I'm getting there. I haven't been growing too quickly, but slow and steady.
Yeah, great, wonderful. All right, so let's move on to the next section there of the. What is this? Is it an interview? What is it? I don't know. It's just something.
A lesson, maybe.
Yeah. Sesh is the next topic then. So I want to try it out. I want to install it, and I want to see how I can use it and how I can adapt it to my workflow. So
so we'll talk about it. I had a similar conversation with you recently where we went over all of your stuff.
Yep.
So I'll mention that now. That'll be coming out on my YouTube channel, maybe at the same time this one comes out. But yeah, we talked a lot about Sesh and Tmux, session managed strategies, right? This is really nerdy stuff. I think most people come up with like, hey, I want a work session and I want a personal session and I want to, I don't know, maybe there's like a SSH, I need to connect to something, and you create a separate session for that. And I found that didn't work very well for me. I really like this idea of how about I just type what I want and it will create a session for me on my behalf. And generally I think of a session as a place on my computer. So it could be a project, it could be a dot file. More specifically, it could be an area of a project. So I really start to focus it down. And it's just built up by an FCF picker and a tool called Zoxide, which is able to track recency and frequency. And so you get a score. And
recency, what is what they call it, but someone told me that is not even a word. Someone got upset.
It's a made-up word.
Yeah.
So frequency is cool. And so you'll see I have some custom configurations, which we'll talk about, these cogs. But then we have all of these and all of these little windows here. These are all just places on my computer that I use. And so I've been experimenting with the way to talk about Sesh more, but basically I don't use the CD command. If I want to CD into something, I'm going to use this instead. So my entry point is a Sesh start script, which lists these out as icons. And then I have a few bindings that I can use. I have a preview window. So Sesh has preview support. And so this is my entry point. I just hit S and a fish abbreviation will dump out Sesh start. And let's just go to like neovim config. And so neovim config, you'll see it automatically opens up my file picker, which is Telescope.
Okay.
And Avante happens to be the file that we looked at a few minutes ago. And so it sorts everything that you see here. It's sorted by most recently opened. And so that makes it really simple that I just hit, oh yeah, I want to go to Avante. I hit enter, right? And then I can repeat the process. So if I want to go to my dotfiles, I can do that. If I want to go to Sesh config, you know, the source code, you'll see that the default is to always show my session picker. And the way that that works is that you have a configuration file that can set up that behavior. So I have this startup command for every session that automatically opens nvim, and then this is a command called go to file that opens up my telescope picker. There's this ignore ders is interesting. You can have this be ignored. And a preview command is the default. So how do we show it? And you'll see here that if we go down and look at some of these, it just lists out the files, you know, because this isn't a session yet. It's just a preview of a session that could be. And then you're able to generate your own configurations. So I like to talk about the Tmux-Config is a good example. Can we see this all right? Yeah. So you name it, you give it a path, you give it a startup command, and you give it a preview if you want. And so any of these you don't define work as a fallback, but basically a session is a place on your computer, and then you can name the session. So if I say Tmux-Config, we're going to see a preview of that file. And when I choose that session, it's going to automatically open up that file because that's what the command was. And so really great. I have another version of this that I like to use. I haven't talked about it much. This idea that I want to look at a set of, in this case, lazy.nvim plugins, right? They live in this place on my computer. And I have this sort of proxy command, which will connect to the one I select, but it will first list all of the plugins and preview their README files. So if I go to lazy plugins, we'll see that I get an additional screen that shows me previews.
A preview of the file.
And if I want to go to like Avante and I hit enter, it now generates an Avante Tmux session.
Okay, a Tmux session, okay.
And then I can do the source code things. I can edit stuff in LazyGit and whatever I want to do. And then you'll also notice that the lazy plugin picker, it like goes away on its own. So it's like I call it a proxy session, which is a clever idea. I can do the same for Tmux plugins, right? I can say I want to look at my nerd font window name, which is the one I mentioned earlier, that it swaps out my Tmux windows for emojis or nerd font symbols.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's
looks pretty
really
cool. Looks pretty nice. Your font and the style, everything in the terminal looks quite nice.
And I might want to look at my CPU usage, right? So I could have a session for that runs Mactop, which is just the current one that I'm using. And if I wanted to, you know, leave that one but leave it open, you know, it'll run its, you know, this, I think this is wattage, so electrical usage or whatever. You can track things over time.
Have you tried BTOP?
Yeah, I use BTOP too. One of the tops is here. The Mactop is just the one I like right now.
Okay.
And so you can imagine it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
I want to SSH into my Steam Deck, then I can do this, and I don't know if it's going to work. Yeah, so it's not enabled right now, but if it was, then I'd have a session for an SSH session.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of great ideas here. For me, it's all the stuff that I do the most, like specific .file things like fish config, Ghostty config. I was using Ghostty for a while. If I want to go to my downloads, right, then it's going to open up this tool, which is called Yazzie, and I can just immediately start exploring the files. So yeah, Sesh has been really, really great.
And how do you bring Sesh up? Do you have like a key map that you can use to bring it up?
Yeah, Command K. I think we talked about it earlier, but Command K is like an action key binding. Command K works well in Discord too, right? If you're used to switching between things in Discord. So the muscle memory is the same everywhere, right?
Interesting.
And that's something I like a lot about.
I do see the benefit, because if I want to go to my downloads directory, for example, I just go to Finder. I don't go in the terminal, just go in Finder. But doing this, I think it would make a lot of sense for me to go to a directory faster, even faster than doing it with Finder. So do you mind just, I don't know if it's gonna work out on my setup on my computer or not, because I have a lot of custom stuff, but would you like to give it a try and see if I can install it and make it work?
Yeah, it takes just a few minutes to set up.
Yeah. Anything else you want to show before we move to my screen?
What I will say is there's a lot of features that I haven't shown off. So like Sesh main, I have Command Shift K set up so that if I want to look at the current, actually, let's go back a step. I can kill Tmux pretty easily. So now nothing's running and I can restart. And if I wanted to say, let's open up Sesh main, you'll see that the session is called Sesh/main. And that's because Sesh is really smart at determining what the configuration should be. So as an example of dotfiles, there's lots of folders in my dotfiles repo, right? Tmux, Sesh, WesTerm. Let's go to the WesTerm one. If I was to choose this as a session, it will take the Git path and it will create a path that's valid based off of the Git repo. So dotfiles is the repo, config is the folder, and then WesTerm is the subfolder, right? And so Sesh is really good at doing that. So if I want to do different things let's try that again, fish. If I wanted to have multiple different sessions open at the same time under the same repo, it's a little bit easier for me to grasp and to get around, and it's cheap, right? So I can just say, okay, I don't need that anymore. And I have a binding that lets me kill sessions.
Okay.
Or I can just close the final window and I have a setting enabled that tells Tmux, don't detach, just, attach to another session if there's more than one left. And so that's been such a huge thing for me to be able to say I want to be in the zoxide and I want to list something. And then in the CLI, I want to list something as well. Now I have two different sessions, the Sesh CLI session and the zoxide CLI session. And I can a little bit more structured and easily work my way around my file system without attempting to go through I could be 5 or 10 neovim buffers. Yeah. And so it's a different flavor, but I have found that I don't have to think about it very much when I can just get to what I want very quickly.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. How do you, let's say that I record a video, right? And I need to move it from where it's going to be in the directory that it's going to be to a different directory. Do you do that in the terminal or you use Finder?
It depends. I think I use Finder plenty for just drag and drop. And I have a lot of things in my sidebar in Finder that just are quick places for me to drop things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is more for config files and code, right?
Config files and code, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's give it a try then. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Gonna switch to my screen. I'm ready when you're ready for the installation then.
Yeah, so you have brew. So all you have to do is say brew install sesh.
Oh, just like that?
Yep.
And let me quit out of here. Brew install sesh.
That's it. So if you don't already have Zoxide or Tmux, it will also install those just because they're dependencies on the project.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I think I have both. I'm not sure if I have Zoxide.
Well, you have Tmux for sure.
Yeah.
And so now it's just a level of how do you want to configure it. So if you want to do sesh list.
Space like this?
Yep.
Sesh
it's
list?
just a command. Yep. That's your basics. So the top elements, the first two are going to be those sessions. If you want to repeat the command and do -i, sesh list -i, you get icons. So the first two are your Tmux sessions, and all the ones below are your Zoxide results.
And where did it get the icons from? From the
This is Nerd Font. Yeah, so Nerd Font, Sesh just knows hey, these are what the sources are.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so
interesting.
And do you use Raycast?
Yep, I do use Raycast.
So there is, if you go to pop up Raycast.
Let me bring it over to this screen.
Sure. And just search store.
Okay, in the settings, right?
No, just right here, store.
Store.
Yep.
Okay.
And go to that and then just type Sesh. So it's kind of fun. You can use Sesh as well in Raycast. So if you want to do this somehow globally, you can. But this is on offer if you want to install this.
Oh,
And
okay. So it already installed it, right? So I bring it up.
I didn't show it up, but yep, connect. So if you hit enter, it's probably going to ask you what your terminal emulator is. So you have to select it for the first time.
Okay, it's
You can type it out.
Ghostty. Okay.
Yep.
Continue. All right.
And so there you go. So this also works out of the box without any really crazy configurations. You can switch. So you can type like .files, hit enter.
Files latest,
And-
this one.
Sure.
I just hit enter
That'll-
there and it's going to
that'll
create a
create-
session.
It'll create a session.
Okay. Okay. I already
Kind of
had
cool.
a session, I think.
But yours was J. So if you go back to Raycast and look at the pop-up.
Yeah. I see.
So you could set up that to a key binding if you wanted. But what I'd recommend is this switcher that you have right now, you can swap out for the configuration from the Sesh README has a good example.
Okay.
So if you want to copy that and bring it in, you can.
Let me go there.
I think in the
Sesh.
near future, we're going to have some sort of playground where we can show off people's different ways of configuring, but I have some reasonable defaults here with FCF.
Okay.
So Brews installed, Sesh is installed. If you scroll down, you'll see some basic usage. So that would be your most basic usage. You see that example there. You want to Sesh connect, but before you Sesh connect, you want to list and FCF that list so that you can choose from it. So if you want, you can try that. This
Let me
is
grab
your
that.
sort of entry point into, yeah, there you go.
Okay. This. Oh, okay.
So
Let's see
now
it,
you
menu.
would just type what you want to type, and it would, when you hit enter, it's going to connect to that session.
Okay. Let's see if I go to this. It creates a session. Okay. Great. I don't have to keep track of all the different directories that I want to create sessions for. What does it search? Like, if I run this, what is it going, like, is it going to start at the root directory and I can type basically anything?
So it will only list zoxide results.
Oh,
So whatever you put in zoxide, it shows. And
Oh,
it does a little bit of human readable things. So if you hit enter on this command, it takes everything from your home directory and it substitutes it for that curly brace so that you know, okay, this is home directory stuff. Makes
okay.
it easy to read.
Okay.
But yeah, anything that you've ever, if you know how zoxide works, anytime you CD into a directory,
It increases the score.
Zoxide will add that entry or increase its score. So if there's something that's not showing up in this list and you want it, you just zoxide add and you add the thing.
Oh,
And then it
okay.
shows up. And every time you ever select this option, so if you were to choose OBS script again, zoxide will automatically increase the score.
Okay. And since
So
everybody
as
has
you
a
use
session,
Sesh,
Huh?
yeah, it still knows where it's located and it still increases the zoxide score.
okay, and it just switches to that session if it already
And it
exists.
switches if it's already there. Yep.
Okay, interesting.
So create sessions or it switches to sessions.
Okay, what should I do next then? What did you say that there was in the README?
Yeah,
This?
so this is the next one. You can combine Tmux and FCF. If you want, you can copy this whole thing.
Okay,
And
Copied it.
this will be bound to capital T,
capital T. Okay, just go
that
to my
first part
Tmux
of the
config
binding,
file.
and then edit your Tmux config file.
Okay, here is the file.
And you'll
It's
just
gonna-
have to put this somewhere. If you have other
Okay.
bindings, you could put them near there.
Let me see if I have. I don't think I have capital T. I don't think I'm using capital T.
It's not
Hope not.
a reserved one, so it shouldn't unless you've explicitly set that before. Yeah, and so you can see a little bit more going on here. So we're listing with icons. The pop-up is 70%, 80% by 70%. We disable the sorting from FCF because we don't want FCF to sort. We want to use Sesh's sorted
Okay.
output, directly. ANSI is something I use to do coloring. So that may or may not be helpful to you. And then the rest of it is just helpful bindings. So you can play around with those if you want.
Okay.
The preview window as well has been set up. And so this should just work. It should just, you have to restart your Tmux config.
Let me just reload it. Yep.
Yeah, you can source it and then give it a prefix capital T.
Okay.
And so now you can switch between your projects with that binding, or you can set up your own binding. Or in my case, I bound my macOS binding to interpret prefix capital T. So I hit Command K and it does the same thing.
Interesting. So these are sessions. I know that these are existing sessions because of the icon, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's what tells you, okay, these are existing sessions. How can I kill one of these from here?
Control D is the binding I have set up.
Control D. Let me see if I try to kill this one. Control D. Okay. Nice.
And if you want to list only the Tmux sessions, you can do Control T.
Control T. Okay.
And if you want to do only the zoxide results, it's Control X.
Control X. Okay.
And then back to all is Control A.
Control A.
And I don't use these very much. I tend to just use this window as you see it. But there's an interesting option for people that want to explore their, what's available to them a little bit more.
Okay. Let's say that I want to create a session for, where can I go that is not dangerous? Let me go to the scene switcher again.
And you'll notice just type it. All you had to type was SC. And it matched within 2 letters. It matched to the thing that you most recently used, right?
Okay, nice.
It makes it so that you don't have to type very much to get where you want to very quickly.
Interesting. That seems really useful because the way that I do it right now, as of today, is I need to have some pre-configured paths, right? So if I type hyper TN, I think it is, but these I have to specifically configure these paths, right? So it's not as as efficient, because I want to go somewhere to some other directories, different times, not only to these. So,
well, and I'll show you the power of this tooling is the custom configs. So you'll need to go to your .config folder.
Okay, let me go there. Okay.
And then you'll probably end up symbolically linking this so that it's in your .files. But for the sake of today, just make a directory called Sesh.
Okay. Sesh, just like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
switch
then
to it, I guess.
Yeah, you could switch to it now that it's there. Yep. And now you could I'll show you a new one. Do Sesh connect, and then there's an argument for a period. Are you familiar with this in the command line? So space and then period.
It's just period?
Yeah, so that is representing the current directory.
This directory. Okay, yep.
And so if you hit enter, it'll create a session based off of the folder that you're in.
Uh-huh.
And look at that.
Oh.
So that's another helpful, feature of Sesh.
I can keep that as a session there and go back to it when I want it, right? And I can just bring Sesh. You said this is not working for me. Well, this is not Sesh. This is the Tmux. Do you know how to map this in Ghostty? Because you mentioned that you use Control K, right? Have you used Ghostty?
Yeah, I can give you some tips on how to do it in Ghostty.
I want to try and see if Command K works. That's the one that you used. You mentioned, right? Command K?
Yep.
Let's see if we can make it work.
So, yeah. So
you can share it in Discord.
Add a new keybind. Yeah, add a new keybind.
I don't think I have any.
There you go. You got one. And it'll equal super. Yep. So it'll be super plus K.
Okay.
And it'll enter text. So TEXT : and then we're just going to dump a hex code.
Okay.
So what is your prefix bound to?
It's the default one.
Okay, great.
Control B.
So swap the period out for a colon, kind of like you see how inspector. There you go. Not semicolon, but colon. Okay. And then you'll do backslash.
Backslash.
That's /. So try the other one. There you go. And then X02 is a hex code for 02. Sorry. That's the hex code for prefix B. And then you'll do / again, or backslash, sorry, for X4C is the one you want. So give that a save and give Command K a try.
Okay, I already saved. I don't know if I need to restart Ghostty. Let's see.
I don't know.
No, Command K. It's not working. No. I don't know if my prefix. Hold on.
Oh, it's try B, not C. My bad. X4B.
B. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think Ghostty does have to reload its config.
I don't know how to reload. And R.
Super R. Mm-hmm.
No, but I think I have a different prefix. Hold on.
If your prefix is different, it won't work. Yeah, you have to bind it to the prefix.
No, Control B.
Control B.
Yep. Did I mistype something maybe? X02, X4B. Let me quit out of Ghostty and try it again, okay? Just to make sure. So, Command K. Do I have it mapped already? Okay, what do I have on Command K?
I don't remember if I had to override it. And I can troubleshoot with you after the stream.
Yeah, that's not relevant right now. At least I know how to bring it up, and I do see the benefit. Yeah.
And I have a video on how you can get the hex codes there. So that the X02, X4B, how did I get that? I have a whole YouTube video on how that works. It's called macOS key bindings for Tmux or something like that.
Which one?
That first one there.
This one?
So that whole video shows you how it works. And basically you just translate that to text, text colon, and then you dump the hex code in.
Okay. Wonderful.
And so I was able to get most of the features I wanted working with Ghostty when I experimented with it.
Okay. What did you move away from Ghostty, by the way?
They don't offer that background image feature yet, which I think is really interesting and helpful for me.
Okay.
I don't like that it's a static config file, right? It's like kind of like shell, I guess, similar. Mm-hmm. I like Lua. I like the dynamic ability to, program things and repeat some of my features and logic and things using a programming language. So I really enjoy that.
Okay, wonderful. What else should I check on? What else should I go over?
So there's a ton of features, but I think the real power of Sesh comes from custom configurations. Mm-hmm. So things like, I want to edit my Tmux config file. Well, you don't need to open up dotfiles and then find the Tmux file and then go to it. You can just have a custom config that sends you directly to that file, and with the Sesh picker. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the Sesh config file can be really helpful in configuring stuff like that.
Okay. So if I bring it up, it's capital T, okay? And if I type Tmux.
So you won't have any matches, right? Because you've never been to like a Tmux folder or anything like that. But it will be in your dot files, right? For now. Mm-hmm. But you'll need to create a custom config. So you can name it, you can go back to Sesh and you can switch to the Sesh session. Now we're getting meta. You have another session called Sesh.
Okay. So the session that I had, okay, hold on, let me bring it here. Okay, this one.
Yeah. Okay. And you'll touch a sesh.toml file.
Okay, can I do it in neovim, right?
You can nvim it, yep.
Okay.
However you make files, sesh.toml. Mm-hmm. Great. And so now to define a new session, you use double angle brackets, and you're welcome to go back to the README. If you scroll down to session configurations, there's a couple of good options.
Okay, let me know where that is.
Yep, it's in the config section.
Okay.
So default, I talked to you about where I can, run a command on any session. I don't want to run the shell. I want to open Vim and call telescope or something.
Oh, okay.
But the Tmux config example is there.
Oh, okay. So I can grab the entire thing, right?
Sure. Yeah. There's a couple options here.
Okay.
So downloads is fairly obvious. And then the Tmux config, you're going to want to change line 8 to whatever yours is.
Okay,
Now you could just drop c/dotfiles if you wanted. Or if you have your dot file path, you could fill that out.
So just the entire path, right?
To the directory. So you want Ghostty swapped out with Tmux.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, I didn't go to the right one. Where is Tmux?
Well, and remember, we haven't mapped it. Your Tmux. Yeah, there you go. So you don't want the file because the path is just the directory. And then it looks like you have a .sh on your Tmux comp file. So you'll have to add that below.
Okay.
So on the startup command, you have to say, I want to nvim tmux-conf.sh, right?
Okay. Do I leave this / here or do I remove it?
It doesn't matter. Sesh can handle either.
That the way that I have it. Let me see. Tmux-conf.sh. The only reason I did that .sh is for syntax highlighting. I think. I don't remember.
Yeah, I've got a tip I can send you later that you can write auto command to auto do that. But anyway, do you have bat? Is the bat something that you use?
Yeah, I think I have
cat alternative.
I think I have it installed.
So now if you open up the Sesh picker and you type Tmux.
Okay, let's see.
You're going to get a custom config there.
Okay.
And if you hit enter, it's going to open up your Tmux config file.
Interesting. That is really useful. It's using like a different theme,
Oh, you got some theming problems. Yeah, so it's not perfect. Everybody's setup's a little different. Your Z shell that has to wait and pull before it can execute, there may be something to that is a little bit funky.
Okay.
I may need to look into that.
Yeah, we can take a look at that later. That's fine. We've been here for over an hour, so I know you have stuff to do. So is there anything else you want to share or something that people should look into or that I should look into before we wrap it up?
There's a whole lot of features in Sesh we didn't talk about. You can clone repos to a specific place and automatically create a session all in one step, which is really nice.
Okay.
I made a fix to the last command that's built into Tmux. I made that an improvement on that feature by creating a sesh last command, which we didn't get to cover either. There's also a whole lot of really good configuration styles. Some of them we talked about today. But yeah, I would encourage people go give it a star. It only takes a few minutes to get going. I mean, with me and you, it took maybe less than 2 minutes and you had it installed and you could use it. Now, configuring it and making it work for your specific needs will take a little bit more time, but actually getting off the ground running is almost immediate. So find a good binding, start learning the muscle memory, and don't do custom, Tmux sessions anymore. Just let Sesh handle everything for you and learn that the least amount of keys needed typically get you to what you need because of that frequency algorithm. So as you get used to it and as you configure it to your needs, you'll find that you don't really have to think about session switching much anymore. You just type what you need quickly, hit enter, and you're where you need to be. And so, yeah, it's a great tool. Everyone that has used it so far has said nice things about it. There's been a few weird edge cases, and so I'm active on GitHub and doing my best to fix anything that comes up. And there'll be some more features coming. So yeah, thanks for trying this out, and I hope it works well for you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming over, Josh. Hold on, give me a minute. Sorry, so my wife decided to use the printer right now.
Oh,
she
funny.
prints from the first floor. I'm on the second floor.
It's all right.
And it started making a lot of noise. Okay.
Surprised.
So, yeah. So maybe let's see how people react to the video, and if you have time another day, we can do like a part 2 or something. We'll see what people say in the comments. Just remember, guys, go and give this a star, the repo, and most importantly, make sure to go and subscribe to Josh's YouTube channel.
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah, any final words?
No, just this was fun. I could talk a lot more about this stuff. I'm sure I will, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch. So yeah, it was fun.
All right. Thank you very much, Josh. We'll see you another day.
Bye.